And what's up, everybody? It is Friday and it is our weekly mastermind. We do not have Mr. Bookspan today. He is at a Be Wealthy event with a bunch of realtors and he is just learning how to be wealthy. I mean, he's already very wealthy, but he's learning how to teach wealth building. So it's good that he's there. What's up, Deborah Bird?
I was laughing in my head because he's the most wealthy, frugal person I've ever met. Like when we do events together, he's like thinking ahead and how can we bulk order and just I mean it's great. He's just very frugal at the same time. So we miss you, Todd. And yeah, it's October 10th, 10/10, and also World Mental Health Day.
Oh,
So make sure
love
you
that.
reach out to those that are special in your world who could be hurting or those who appear to have it all together, who could be carrying something heavy. Make sure you ask twice, like, how are you doing? And then ask them again, no, how are you really doing? Which I think it's a great topic and great guest for today, especially with the adversity that you've overcome, Chris. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
mental health day too.
Oh, I didn't
So
know that. Yeah, I love that.
I didn't know that either. And so Deborah, usually I'll introduce the special guest, but why don't we both? Why don't we literally take turns going
Okay.
back and forth? You tell us why you're excited to have Chris on, and I'll throw mine in, and then we'll have a mastermind with Chris.
So the what stuck out to me first with meeting you, Chris, was just your story. I mean, the things that you've overcome and how you've made that now your testimony. And I don't want to repeat too much of it, but I know in 2020 in July you had a son, CJ, born, and then I believe it was 18 minutes later he had passed. And I was excited to learn that you have since, because you have two girls, and I know you were really excited about having that little boy. And I know you've since had Leo, who's about to be two.
Yeah.
But just hearing that story and being so real and relatable, and how it took you like, a minute to pick yourself up because that was during COVID time. Like nobody could come to the hospital, and it was just such a weird time. And then I remembered you said you had written Call Bill Hart at the top of your journal, and he was the one that you had reached out to and had really helped you kind of rediscover this life now post your event, along with just your childhood upbringing with,
Yeah.
being born with a limb difference and your mom who was a drug addict, and just your story and how you overcame, and then the light that you bring and the gift of what you share. And so I just really appreciate you being willing to share the adversity. And I think there's people who could probably relate, and then some of us who, probably have no idea how heavy that could be and how it's still heavy. It's still a spot there that probably has, it's still painful. I'm sure it gets a little bit better over time, but that's what stuck out to me was that story and how relatable and just raw and real. And not that you told it perfectly. And that's where my message to those listening is, it doesn't always have to be perfect as long as it's real and true and human. So I'll shut up there, Dave, and let you now go.
Well, you did a pretty good intro and laid up a lot of who we're getting ready to talk to. And I had had a number of industry leaders tell me you need to know Chris. I think Bill Hart might have been the first. I know Renee Rodriguez. You guys have gone deep. I know JJ Mazzo has said just some amazing things. So people that I have multi-decade relationships with, and I think they're some of the most respected and badass people in the industry just say amazing things. So I loved our last time we had you on here where we talked about turning adversity into, a strength. But I particularly like today's headline because it was build an unstoppable life. Like be unstoppable, be unoffendable. And I do think we're at a time in the mortgage industry that like it's tough. And while it is getting better and people are getting both a combination of refis and realtors, and I interview a lot of folks that are killing it, but I also know that the majority, like the common LO, the, most LOs are not, where they want to be mentally. So let's first of all, guys, give this guy a hand and use these little reactions. I love that when Deborah was doing her story, like all the hearts. That was pretty bitchin'. So you picked this title, Chris. Like, what was on your mind when you said, I want to talk about building an unstoppable life? Why did you pick that?
Yeah, for me, in the last several years, and thank you for the great introductions and those. It's awesome you guys actually listen to what I say, which is really cool. But you've heard me speak this, and you've listened to it and taken it in, so I appreciate that. But for me, I think that an unstoppable life also goes into being living a life by design, right? Living a life the way you want it. You know, we hear those crazy things like YOLO and you're only here one time and all these different things, but like we have the opportunity to live a life by design the way we want it. If we understand the first baseline or the foundation has to be adversity is a building block for you. Like you can't think that I'm going to create this life and there's not going to be any adversity coming at you. And how you grow and learn from the adversity is really the key to building that foundational leverage, right? So for me, I was able the last few years to really go back and go through all the crazy things that have happened in my life and what did I learn from those, right? How can I take that message and help somebody else? What does my life by design look like? And I'll give you a brief summary real quick. In 2023, I left the mortgage industry full time and decided to become a coach and a keynote speaker and an author. I just went for it, right? And I've been super blessed and fortunate to be a best-selling author, now international best-selling author with my One Jordan book. And I'm getting on stages in places. But the massive impact I'm getting is from my coaching clients. I coach some of the highest producing originators in the industry right now, and some realtors. I coach some CEOs of companies. I coach a president of a mortgage company. So the lessons I've learned from adversity to be able to teach them to get through the day to day and how to grow in their business is the results are unreal. Like, I mean, like we look at them and I get the numbers every week from my assistant. I'm like, are they really up that much? Like they're really doing this much more business. They're hiring this many more people. And it's not about, I'm not the best tactician in the world. I'm not going to sit here and tell you the next thing you do to get more loans. But I can tell you this, if you embrace the adversity and learn from it and push through it. And I have this thing called the adversity paradigm. Okay. And the adversity paradigm is this. There's 4 levels of adversity. The first one is victim. It's happening to me. The second one is a survivor. It's happening around me. The third is the warrior. It's happening for me. And then the fourth is what I've taken on for most of my adversity, which is called the architect. It's happening through me. Okay. And I think that if we can look at situations as they come our way and try to diagnose how that's affecting us and how we can move that next step, that's what we call getting through adversity. And I'm not one that says, we get over it. We don't get over it. If you get over it, it's going to come back to you, I believe. If you get through it, it becomes part of you and helps you get stronger for the next thing that you face.
I love that. And by the way, I love frameworks. When we were doing our prep call, we talked about JJ Mazzo's new book,
Yeah.
Preservation Principles. And one of the things I love about this book, and I just always love frameworks. You know, he has 7 principles. I was trying to open it up to the principles. And by the way, some of what you were saying kind of resonated, but fighting through your discomfort zone, principle 1.
Yeah.
Principle 2, developing self-leadership, putting plans into practice, number 3. I'm not going to read them all out. By the way, guys, you know, Chris has this book. I have this book. I really recommend everybody buys this book. I'm actually going to do a LinkedIn post next week on it. Represent JJ Mazzo, another absolute warrior. I mean, what he's come through. By the way, have you read the book yet?
I have not. It's next. I'm reading a book called Skull Sessions right now by a guy named Scott Cochran, who was the strength coach for Nick Saban and then went on to be the strength coach at Georgia. It's really good. It's really good. So I have a stack of books on Skull Sessions by Scott Cochran. I just got done reading The Obstacle is the Way, was my first before that, but Skull Sessions is
Obstacle's Way is like all time. Like truly one of my all-time favorite books.
It is. I'm reading it, doing research for my book, really. Literally, I've got all these pages tabbed, and that's how we're going to take some stuff from there and use it. But yeah, so I have a stack of books I'm always reading. So this is going to be next. I moved JJ's book to the top of the list. Sorry, Damon, over my buddy Damon West's book that just came out. But yeah.
I'm reading it this weekend. I just got it a couple days ago. Uh, and I will be making that. It's pretty easy. I don't want to call it easy read,
Yeah.
but it's not
Yeah.
crazy. I would
It's
say
my
just,
style. It's
For a
yeah,
200.
dyslexic kid, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
yeah. All right. So what are some because I was gonna ask you what are your kind of some of your favorite principles in that book, but if we were gonna kind of break down the principles of warrior and through me, I don't think we need
Yeah.
the principle of the victim or someone who's just surviving, but like to get into warrior mode or to get into through me mode, like it happens through me. What are some
Yeah.
principles around that?
Well, I think that, I mean, I'd be more like, if I have something coming at me today, I need to slow down and realize that how do I can define what this means. I can define what it means. Okay. So like I can create the definition of what this means, whether if you're in the real estate space or mortgage space, a deal blows up, this happens, whatever it is, you're challenged in the market that's going on. How do I define what that is? And I love the warrior. It's happening for me because if I look back at things that have challenged me through my life, what how can I turn that adversity into strength? And the warrior is that. And I'm the performance coach. I help a local football team here at Carmel High School, and last year they were 3-7, lost their first. Everybody in Indiana plays for one playoff game. That's how it works. But they were 3-7, didn't win a sectional game. They won multiple state titles. They've struggled. This year they have a great new coach, a coach that came back who's won multiple state titles, Kevin Wright. And I've been working with them, helping on their mindset. And the warrior mindset is really what we've been focusing on. Is what happened last year happened. It happened for me. Well, the lessons we learned last year happened for me, right? And how do I take those lessons and raise my standards for it to not happen again? So for me, the warrior mindset is something that is just a day to day, every day. But I like to finish my day with an architect. I get my journal out at the end of the day and I map out an architect. What's happening through me today? What happened through me, right? And not leaving anything on the table there.
Hey, Deb, you asked the next question, but I want to like hear a little more about that journal. Like what is in that journal prompt that you're doing where you're mapping out the day and you're architecting? Like kind of walk us through that. Like if I was going to do you're going to give me direction on how to do that
Yeah.
tonight or tomorrow. What would that look like?
Yeah. Well, because I obviously created the diversity paradigm, I just have architect written at the top of the page, and then I brain dump what happened through me today. What happened through me today, right? What was that I didn't let it absorb into my system and take control over me, but it got through me to make it better. And I had a couple clients yesterday that having some challenging times with stuff outside of business. You know, one thing I've learned about coaching high producers is they have a lot of things in their life besides business that we need to help them with. And so I had a couple of those calls yesterday and I broke down how that went through me and I became part of that with them to help them get to that finish line, to help them. They needed a sounding board for something different, right? They needed a sounding board for somebody who wasn't a relative or somebody who didn't have financial benefit from them closing more deals. And that's where I've got the growth from yesterday.
Love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Dave, what came first to my mind was what an opportunity for the uncommon LO to guide their clients, whether it's referral partners or borrowers who are facing a lot of adversity. Like there's absolutely a financial crisis going on. And, how could they be the guide to help adversity of home affordability or why you should maybe stop renting and get into home ownership sooner? And how do you take today's challenges and let it go through you and be that warrior to make it a strength? And sometimes it takes creativity, and sometimes it takes reframing what your first home may look like. Like maybe it doesn't check all the boxes, but here's the importance of why you would take this commitment and start building wealth, even if it's in a home that maybe isn't your forever home. But Chris, my question to you is, what are some of the like micro friction points that we tend to avoid that we may not even realize we're avoiding? And those are the very things that if we just leaned into it like the buffalo and you just head straight on.
Into the storm.
Yeah.
The first micro would be checking your email. You're not going to check your email if you're afraid something in there that you don't want to see. I used to be the guy that would not check my bank statement online, bank account online, because I didn't want to know how little I had. Um, so there's a couple, but I think one is tough conversations, right? And I was always taught
Mm.
from an early age in sales that we want to have the tough conversations, run to that client, right? And like the Buffalo, but run to that client, have the tough conversations. And most times they're not going to be as bad as you think they are, but you have to get them off your plate because they're going to become a time suck for you. And then that's all you're going to think about is, I haven't had a tough conversation yet. I haven't called that client back who we're going to have maybe some bad news for, right? Or they're not going to get what they want out of this deal. Or I got to call that referral partner back and let them know, hey, we had to push another week because something happened with title or appraisal or whatever. Have those conversations fast, right? And get them out of your way.
I
I
really
mean, that
love.
right there. Yeah, you make a list of all the conversations you're avoiding because they're tough conversations, especially if like a deal's going sideways and you're like, ooh, avoiding that agent who keeps calling.
Oh
Hey,
yeah. I mean,
so
just have the conversation. Go ahead, Dave.
oh, I just really want to push everybody like these masterminds to make them practical. First of all, we've all heard that before, like, hey, you got to lean into tough conversations. When it comes to people on the team that aren't executing well, like some of my biggest regrets as an executive were that I didn't take action sooner, or I ended up letting them go, but I regret that I didn't have a tougher conversation with that team member earlier and it turned them around. But I actually had never heard the analogy you just said about, hey, logging into your bank account. Because by the way, I've been there. Or logging in to your Amex account. Like, oh, I don't want to see what the balance is. You know,
Yeah.
and so, and for me, sometimes there'll be things that are financial planning decisions, and I have to get my wife's buy-in on it, and we're talking to an advisor, but I want everybody right now, and I know I just made a note to myself, like, what are some of the tough things that you're dealing with right now and that you're not leaning into? And journal on that. Like I just like I literally made a note to myself and I wrote down, I'm not going to tell everybody what they are, but two things that I'm not being as aggressive with, I'm not attacking, and I'm going to journal like, why not? Dave, why are you not doing this? So I would just push everybody to do that. I'm not going to ask anybody to share what those tough things are because
Well, we all have our own definition of what tough is, right? Like we have our own
yeah,
definition of those conversations, what tough is. But the next part that helps with these situations is what I call the adversity accelerator. And the adversity accelerator is doing things to create intentional adversity in your life so you're better prepared for the next thing that shows up. Now, for me, it's physical challenges. For me, it's cold plunging every morning. For me, it's breaking down certain things that I do in the morning that are tougher than what the average person does. So I'm better prepared when that trouble comes my way. And it makes me a better coach and a better leader, right? Like I'm a big physical challenge guy, even with a limb difference. I'm going to be in Dallas, Deb, for the High Rocks competition 11/22. I'm competing in the High Rocks
Ooh.
competition in Dallas. If you guys don't know what that is, Google it. They have a limb difference division, which is why I'm being part of it, upper extremity division. But it's an extremely hard challenge. And the reason I'm doing that is because if I can do that and get through that challenge, and I get on the phone with one of my clients and they tell me they can't make their calls, I don't understand. Why can't you make your calls? I just went and did something that could have killed me. Like let's figure this out, right? So your adversity accelerator doesn't need to be physical challenges. It could be what we just talked about, having tough conversations, maybe putting yourself out there a little bit more so you're ready for the next time you need to. But if we don't create intentional adversity and push through it, we're not going to be ready for the next time life surprises us with something like that. And what I really enjoy about the adversity accelerator piece too, with intentional adversity, is you should be putting your kids through intentional adversity right now. Okay.
Mm.
Like my kids are very blessed. We have a good life, right? They don't struggle like I did when I was a kid, but I have to remember that because I don't want to raise somebody who's a jerk when they get older, right? So we've got to create intentional adversity for them. But for you on a daily basis, I would challenge you to do something every day that pushes you a little bit and makes you uncomfortable. So the next time you're surprised by something, you got it handled. You don't get worried, nervous, panicked. You got it handled.
I love that. I love that. I love the term Adversity Accelerator. I'd never heard that, those two words put together. And I also cold plunge daily. And I'll tell you there's, definitely a physical health benefit to doing it. But one of the reasons why I keep doing it is I feel like I'm proud of myself. Like it is not like it's a whole lot easier now that I've been doing it for almost 2 years every single day. Like, so it's radically easier physically, but there's just a mentalness to it. And then there's just, I feel proud of myself. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like how you feel about yourself. So, by the way, guys, there's another thing to journal on. Like, what are your adversity accelerators? And then what are some adversity accelerators you could have, but you're just not doing it? And by the way, I'm pretty sure prospecting by noon could qualify as an adversity accelerator. And like I interview the best of the best loan officers, and they are at a point in their career where if they don't get their prospecting in, it's like they didn't have their drugs. They didn't have their
Yeah.
coffee. They're addicted to doing it. But I know firsthand because I've talked to a lot of loan officers that are struggling, called the common LO, that's struggling, and it's like they don't do it consistently. It's like they hate it. They haven't built up the calluses to doing that. So, by the way, I think you could also put that under the thing of tough conversations. Like, hey, I
Yeah.
am not
Yeah.
doing my prospecting calls consistently. And that actually could be a really, money making activity if people could kind of go from I'm not to I am consistently prospecting and winning by noon.
Well, here's the thing I've never understood about prospecting. Okay. Like, why aren't you going through for me, is it when I would prospect, or I still today, I mean, I still have point of contacts. I prospect every day to get speaking engagements, to get opportunities to coach and lead, work with groups. Every day we have that on our calendar. I've got a spreadsheet with my assistant updates, and I make the text messages and I make the calls and I do those things. And I'm up 190% over last year's business. My revenue is up
Oh, man.
190%. Okay. And I'm still every single day working like it's down 190%. But here's the thing about prospecting. Why aren't you going for the bigger fish? Why are you afraid of the bigger person you're to prospect, or the bigger company, or whatever it is to go after? Because all the no's feel the same. They feel the same. Like if I, like, we reach out to companies all the time. Like, my assistant's constant, oh, there's an event, reach out to this company, see if we can get on stage there next year. A no from a Fortune 100 company hurts just as much as a no from me not being able to speak at the Rotary Club. Hurts the same. Like, so why not go for the big one, right? So, like, rethink when you're prospecting. Stop limiting yourself on what you think is capable. Take the ceiling off. I talk about that all the time, that everybody else has put on you, and go after the big ones. Go chase it. Like, why I like to go after the big ones? Because most people aren't going after the big ones. They're afraid of them. So the no feels the same, right? Like, I have a perfect example of that. My wife is a 12 on the scale of 1 to 10, right? She's a 12. And if I asked her out on a date, it would have hurt just as much as if a 4 told me no. But she said yes, and we've been together for 13 years. So, like, what are you going to do, right? So go after the bigger one.
Wow,
So
that was
Chris, what
pretty good.
about the mortgage advisor who's been in it for 20 years? They have calluses, but they feel like they've done all the right things. They've developed a book of business, but now a lot of their database is locked up, and they've kind of reached a point where, not that they're too good for it, but it's like, all the work I did leading up to this point was supposed to, build that repeatable business over. I don't want to have to go back and do open house crashing, or go back and do the prospect calls. Like, I feel like I'm starting all over again, and I'm 53 years old,
Yeah.
and that's not what I want to do. Like, I don't love that part. And so
Well,
they're struggling with that adversity there, of like where they're at in life and not being where they were hoping they would be based off all the work they've just done. And they know the mountain, they've climbed it before. They know how hard it is. Where the first time they climbed it, they didn't know how hard it was. And so what about that person who's mentally struggling there?
there's, I actually coach a guy who's very similar to that. He's in Southern California. He was a close to $100 million producer, great LO. changed companies, the market shifted, and then the next thing you know, he was doing around 20 million. And it's taken us 8 months to get his confidence back and refocus. And this month he's going to have like a $9 million month. But the difference is that when the market shifts, if you're not pivoting with the market, you're going to end up in that space. And we have to constantly pivot and think differently about what we're going to do, because what worked previously is not going to get us where we need to go now. The market has changed. There's still tons of opportunity in there. Maybe you need to become an expert in a different segment. Maybe you need to become an expert on non-QM. Maybe you need to do a better job of talking to the people in your database. And I don't mean sending out email blasts, and I don't mean having AI run your database. You need to treat your database as customer relationships. And when you make those phone calls, you need to know who you're talking to on the other end, right? So to me, if I'm a 53-year-old guy and I've got a database of 20 years, I'm going to do everything I can to talk to those people. And I don't care if they're locked up or not. They know somebody who knows somebody who needs help, right? So how do I get back in front of them? And it's by picking up the phone and making the phone calls. And look, I have a lot of people that my VIP one-on-one clients that are just absolutely doing, I mean, I got my average the other day, they're up over 60% on average year over year. 60% business in a market that seems to be tougher, but they've all pivoted. They've all realigned what they're doing. They've gone after different segments. They've decided to bring on different products. And then they also stopped believing what everybody told them they were capable of. And to me, is one of the biggest things you can do is stop letting people tell you what you're capable of. You figure it out. Like I do these things called Freestyle Fridays every Friday, where I get on the microphone and I just kind of let it out. Sometimes it makes people happy, sometimes it doesn't, but it makes me happy. So 2 weeks ago, I talked about making sure you have a clear vision of what it looks like and where you want to go. And I remember sharing my vision with somebody close to me, and he looked at me and he said, I don't see it. I don't see it. And you know, the cool thing about it is, Deb, they don't have to see it. Only you have to see it. So create that vision and go after it and break it down into a daily routine and segment. And you're going to win in any market. Like, you're going to win in any market. Like, if you talk to any of the big names that Dave works with, it's on all the time, right? Like, you have so many just powerful LOs. They're doing business differently today than they did 2 years ago. They've pivoted, they've adjusted, they've adapted to the market, and they're still winning at a high level. So why aren't you? The common LO is being common. Why don't you go be uncommon? Be uncommon.
I like it. Well, you just said like 3 things that just teed up my next question. And I'm going to play a little 1-minute video before I do this. So first of all, if you have not already started following the Uncommon LO, like, this is the one time during a mastermind or a Tuesday call that you can multitask. And I'll know how many of you did it, because I know that we've got 374 followers right this minute. And I know a lot of you guys are already following this. But I am going to play, like, we started taking clips from Scriptapalooza last week. So we had Scriptapalooza, we had 6 amazing industry leaders, including Deborah Bird. She was one of the 6. We had Phil Jones. And I'm going to play this one right now. It's called How the Word Just Weakens Your Influence. Now, Chris, when this plays, I want you to think about this from two ways. So one, let's think about words that we use with other people, like words that come out of our mouth that either weaken us or strengthen us. And then I also want you to think of words that we use internally. Like, what are some of the words that we use? By the way, I hit my time limit on Instagram. So by the way, my daily time limit is 15 minutes. So I just went 16 minutes on Instagram today. And I approved myself for unlimited usage for the rest of the day. But let's play this video. And then, Chris, we're going to come to you. Well, first of all, Deb, let's let you unpack anything you want from this. And then we'll go to Chris and we'll do some internal scripting and some external scripting around words to be more powerful and be more resilient and to be more inspirational. Phil Jones, everybody. Oops.
To the word simply. Magic thing. Here's what people want to feel when it comes to making decisions. 3 things. Watch how a swap of the word just to the word simply can make a big difference. I think you said here is that I just wanted to, or that it will just take, or like you were simplifying what it is that you were looking for. But if it's, it simply needs you to reply to this, not just. Just is an abbreviation to the word justify that rarely should be used. We all overuse the word just. It's lazy language. I think you could be simply or quickly or easily or effortlessly. You could find 15 synonyms for the word just and it would have more power.
So guys, if you have not started following this account, follow it, give it a like.
So here's what people want to feel.
If anybody has started, did we get a few follows? Well, not coming through yet, but feel free. Deborah, anything you want to call out on that clip? Because you were on the call live. I thought that was, everything Phil did was just golden, but I thought that was one that has just been in my mind since then.
Well, that was with Jeremy's conversation. And what stuck out to me the most with Jeremy's is he's very verbal, and he's been very intentional of his message architecture around the things that he says and how he coaches his teams, where he didn't catch himself with the same kind of intentionality was his written word. And so that's where, when we kind of dissected his emails that he sent, he was like, oh my gosh, I even coach my team not to do this. And I just caught it in my own email myself. And so it just made me stop and think, okay, which one do I favor more? And when was the last time have I inspected what I expect of myself on a verbal standpoint? So that's what really caught my attention there. And then a similar kind of word that I hear often that my business coach had pointed out to me, probably it was about a decade ago, is when I would say, to be honest. And he's like, quit saying that, because people think, well, were you not honest before? And so he had suggested you could say something like, to be fully transparent, or to be frank, but don't say, well, if I'm being honest, because then they will assume you weren't previously. So that was my
Good
big,
stuff. So
yeah.
performance coach Chris, what are your thoughts after hearing that, and any other words you want to throw out?
I think it comes down to not just words, but phrases, like and when we're trying to get somebody to move from one spot to another, and I'm a big Phil Jones guy. I became certified with Phil Jones, and I was on a phone call with Phil Jones for 90 minutes Monday night. He coaches me through a bunch of different things. So I'm a big Phil Jones supporter. In the intentionality, for me, Phil Jones, it comes down to the intentionality we need to have with our words when we're trying to move people. So it could be one word, it could be phrases. And when we start diagnosing what we're trying to get people to do and actually understand that, like one of the things I love, he says, would it help if? Like, it's one of the things he talks about, would it help if? Instead of just saying, okay, go ahead and sign here. Or would it help if I went into more detail about what we're going to cover so we can get this deal closed sooner, right? And there's pages of that in my notes I could go through, and Deb probably has the same thing because I know she went through the same stuff I did. But to be intentional with the words and then put them into practice. Now, I can get on here and say these things to you, and just like Jeremy, who's one of the best guys on the planet when it comes to scripting, he's a genius. If I don't put these things into practice religiously, I'm not going to be able to implement them on a daily basis in my workspace, right? So I do this thing once a month where I teach a free exactly what to say call once a month for an hour. And the reason I do that is because it makes me better at using the exactly what to say magic words and being a better speaker and being able to come from a place of curiosity more, because that's the only way I could figure out time to work on it. So I just started doing this free thing, and we have been putting like 70 people or so get on there, I think, a call. And last week was a little short of that, but we get a good number of people on there, and it helps me focus on getting those words in better. So one word off the top of my head, I can't think of it, but I'm more of a phrase, how I replace phrases in my business. In my this right here, when I use a text message DM, like, I'm a follow-up savage. Like, I will follow up with you till the end of time. But now my follow-ups are way more intentional because I act like I'm Phil Jones with the way I follow up, and I ask the questions in the follow-up, and I don't get ghosted very often anymore. I get responses.
So by the way, there's another couple words put together I don't think I'd ever heard. follow-up savage. And I am the OG
You
follow-up
are.
savage. And I mean, everybody's heard the term, the fortunes are in the follow-up, and Paul, who's my executive assistant on here, knows that like part of his role is making sure that I keep promises to the market, people keep promises to me, and we execute on our follow-up protocols. So, guys, you're getting so much gold from today. That was the first time I had played a clip from the Uncommon LO. I'm going to do one more because I really liked it. I think it's also a really good setup for Deb and some of the training she's doing. But here's another clip from Scriptopalooza, which, by the way, guys, it's available on YouTube. It's been watched over 1,200 times. But here's the one that we posted yesterday. And I've got a few things to say to this. Deborah, be ready to say a few things. And then Chris. So here's another clip from Phil Jones.
Feel when it comes.
Wait.
So here's what people want to feel when it comes to making decisions. 3 things. 1 is smart. 2 is capable. And 3 is good. And I know what some of you are thinking. You're like, where's the big idea here, Phil? This is not that complex. Smart is I have enough information to make a decision. That is sometimes factors like I can make overpayments as my salary or my income increases. Smart means, well, actually I understand like all of the overall expenses that are going to be required for closing, as well as how much this could cost me over a period of time, as well as how I might be able to buy down the rate. Like enough information, and there's a spectrum depending upon who you're talking to, but not too much information, enough. Capable means I can afford this. With first-time buyers, explore their capabilities. But I might not like a 6.25% rate. But can I afford it? That's a different question. Like how many times have you spent money that is more than you would like and you're okay with it because you're capable?
So another great little clip. The one thing I want to say before we go around the circle on this is when you think of the smart, I mean, this is the difference between the common LO and the uncommon LO. Like the common LO thinks smart is, this is what your rate is, this is what your payment is, this is what your cash to close is, and this is what you qualify. And I promise I can close on time. That's common. That's a commodity. By the way, AI can do that. Automation can deliver on what I just said. The uncommon LO, what smart is all of that, but then showing what does that mean over 3 years? And whatever short-term period matters to the consumer, what does that mean over time? And then to really check the box on smart, it's did you connect the dots to how that's going to help them achieve financial freedom or whatever their big long-term goal is. If their long-term goal is retiring at 50, but they're on track to be in a position to do that in their 60s, the smart uncommon LO is always going beyond the transaction. So that was a little cliff note. I didn't think of it when when Phil said that live, but when I watched the clip, I was just like, oh, like that is such a great lesson. Deborah, anything you want to call out on that before we go to our special guest, Chris?
Yeah, it was something I had to even tweak in my sister's process, where sometimes we show up and throw up and we're advice monsters and we're so excited to get our slide deck out and immediately start talking about how interest rates work. And it's like, you've got to slow the process down because feelings are subjective. What makes someone feel smart or capable is going to be different from human to human. And so to me, it's what questions are you asking first to uncover and reveal what does smart look like for them? What does capable, good look like for them? Like you need to collect those boxes first before you just show up and immediately jam at them your content. And that's, where Phil talks about all the time. You have to get context before you insert content. Otherwise, we assume it's valuable, but we don't get to determine that. They do. They're the ones that label it as valuable or not. And if you're peacocking and using, industry jargon and trying to appear with some authority and credibility, sometimes you lose people because they can't comprehend you. Like, how easy are you to comprehend? And then the biggest takeaway is it's not and Phil and I go back and forth on this. To me, I care less about exactly what, it's not exactly what to say, it's what they hear, because that can be different all the time. I'll be like, but that's not what I said, but it's what they heard. So more importantly, what is it they hear and how does it make them feel? What's their story around money? What's their story around being able to buy a home as a first-time home buyer right now? So slow the process down and get inside the soul and the mind of the person you're wanting to serve.
Yeah. That's very good, Deb. And it comes down to a couple of things. The first is you're not selling yourself, so quit trying to do the things that you'd want to have done to be sold. And that's a common mistake amongst people who are in sales. But it's all in the questions we ask, right? To define the services we need to provide, right? And for me, maybe the book should be called Exactly What Not to Say, because there's so many things we shouldn't say as we get into the process of the Q&A with someone.
I'm writing that one, just so you know exactly what not to say.
Awesome.
You just made that up, Deborah. You don't have
No,
that
I
up.
told Phil that the first day at the certification, I should write the book of what not to say, because that's Deb.
not
You
to
should
say.
do that. Like exactly
I
what
know.
not to like. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
I agree.
real.
I like
Trademark
pattern
right now.
interrupts.
Trademark
Yeah.
it, get the domain. Let's go.
And a couple of the things that come to mind when you think this, and is when if I have a first-time home buyer or anybody in the space, if I'm not asking them what they understand about the mortgage process, and I'm just throwing all this stuff out there, how good am I really? If I'm not triaging a little bit, trying to diagnose who I'm talking to or who I'm in front of, and then what's your experience with closing a loan? What's your experience? What has your experience been in the past with getting a mortgage? And if you ask those two questions, you're going to get a ton of information to help you come around and create the strategy that's going to work with that client. Not just, this is what we do and this is our process and how much money do you have? No, like you got to make it more personal. What's the one thing people want more than anything? Connection. They want to feel connected to. They will pay me a quarter point higher on the interest rate if they're connected to me compared to the guy at Chase Bank that they're not connected to. Right? So how do we create connection? We have to ask consistent questions and come from a place of curiosity, right? And that is the most winning strategy you can get right now in the marketplace. If you're struggling, evaluate the questions you're asking. Evaluate the questions you're asking potential referral partners, potential clients, anybody in the space. Stop asking for referrals and start asking, who do you know that I should know? Like, referral becomes a dirty word anyway these days, but who do you know that I should know? Right? I mean, those are just a few takeaways that can really change the trajectory of your business if you're in a struggling space. What questions are you asking? How are you showing up when you ask those questions? And then it'll help you. They'll literally give you everything you need to help close the deal. Everything. I mean, they have it all for you. You're just not asking the right questions to get it out.
I love that. So I want to throw a few other questions for folks to ask. If you want to be that loan officer that is transformational, not a transactional loan officer, is start asking people, how old do you want to be when your home's paid off? You know, most people haven't thought about that. They don't have a goal around that. What is your home ownership plan for your kids? Are you, educating them, or you doing anything to help your kids achieve home ownership? By the way, at what age, like if you had a magic wand, at what age would your kids buy their first house? I want to help make that happen for you. By the way, when you start asking questions like that, like you are not a transactional loan officer that just closes loans on time. You are the captain of the wealth team. You are the mortgage advisor that helps families achieve financial freedom and does it in a way that helps their kids create financial freedom. So it was beautiful, Chris. So hey, we are just got into the fourth quarter where games are won and lost, and it is football season, and we are seeing lots of great games be won and lost in the fourth quarter. I want to transition and focus on leadership. So like everyone on this call either has someone that is struggling, that needs to shift from, victim or surviving to warrior or through me. Like we all know someone, and we all, like if you're a manager leader, you have people working for you that are in that thing. Let's close out with just some leadership, either questions that we should ask people, maybe a framework, some principles, a sequence, but let's do some leadership around that. Like like, why don't you and Deb kind of go through it and tell us how Deb, if she knows someone is struggling, coach her how to approach that person.
So if someone's trying to coach Deb through
No, no, you're coaching Deb as a leader,
okay.
which by the way is pretty hard to do because she's really smart about this.
She's
Like,
super intimidating. She's super
yeah,
intimidating.
No,
yeah.
whatever.
But I'm more like role playing. And, you know, I want to help everyone on this call be a better leader, show up in a more effective way in helping people become unstoppable. You know,
I mean, we can make this a real example because I do lead a bunch of loan officers, and right
Yeah.
now I
yeah,
have,
right. There you go.
I
Hey,
mean,
Deb.
I feel like the biggest struggle is their belief in themselves. Like that is what's getting in the way of, they have their whale list. They know they're supposed, like they know what they're supposed to do. In
But are
their
they doing?
mind, they feel less than, whether it's real or not, because then I will go deeper and say, okay, well, what makes this person better than you? And they're like, well, I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, why not just show up as the best and own it? You know, but it's the self belief. So how do you help coach?
Yeah, that's a great one. So the first thing would be I would have a conversation with them about, do you think you have it, when we talk about changing what you're doing right now, do you feel that you have to think and act differently to do what you want to accomplish? Do you have to
Yes.
think and act differently than you are right now? Perfect. Okay. So thinking and act differently is the first pivot. How do we do that? Well, if I don't have the confidence to show up and do the things that need to be done, I need to analyze why the confidence is lacking. Okay. So I would ask them, the first time is, when was the last time you won big? When was the last time you won big? Do you remember what that feels like? Great. Yes, I do. I remember what it feels like. It was 2 years ago to this. Okay, great. I want you to remember, because if you don't remember what it feels like, it's hard to get back to that spot of understanding what winning feels like compared to losing, right? So we understand that piece. And then I would say, let's break this down to a daily situation. How can we create a winning day? And I know we win by noon and everything else, but like what would a winning day look like for you? Not basing it off of an outcome, but basing it off the things you can control. We call the controllables. So if I have a list of 5 things, and one of my top guys has to text me at the end of every day, one of my clients, he texts me whether he got 7 out of 7 done every day. He also texted me this morning at 4:45 a.m. because that's what time he gets up in California. But how can we create or define a winning day for you so you feel the confidence come back to do what you once did, or to be able to grow beyond and above that? So I would define it on a daily basis. Let's just really break it down. What's it take for 5 or 6 things in the morning for you to do the win early, right? What will get your momentum going? Because here's the thing I know to be true, that if I can stack 5 or 6 easy wins in the morning for me before I grab this thing, I can't lose my day, because I'm 5 or 6-0. So if I'm 5 or 6-0 before I take on the world's problems, the chances of me going backwards are few and far between. So the belief starts there. Now we can talk about transference belief. I believe in you, Deb. I know what you're capable of. Let's look at the numbers. That sounds great, but until they actually make the moves to get that thought back themselves, it's not going to happen. So I would say we got to break it down early on a daily basis on how we stack some wins to get some momentum going, to be able to put yourself out in the place where if you take an L, it doesn't hurt.
I want to put an explanation mark on that because I doubt very seriously there are too many people that are absolutely killing it that are not killing their morning. You know, they're not doing exactly what you said. And I
Yeah.
would be willing to bet that the majority of people that are not killing it are not doing what you just said. And then I was even doing some self-reflecting because I'm far from perfect, and I've definitely had seasons in life where I have not killed it. And I think back on all those seasons, I was not killing my morning. You know, I was not crushing those 5 to 6 things. That was freaking cool.
Well, thank you. And I think part of it too, though, is let's talk about belief with ourselves again, real quick. So I'm a big believer in I am statements, and that's like I am. Like I showed a video. I found a video the other day in Time Hop. I popped it from 3 years ago. It said I was doing my I am statements, and I said I am a coach, I am a keynote speaker, and I'm a best-selling author. Those were from 3 years ago, and I would say that every single day. And now I'm a coach, I'm a best-selling author, and I'm a keynote speaker. But I go a little further now. Inside my phone, 3 times a day, 9, noon, and 4 o'clock, my I am statements populate on my phone and I read them out loud. Right. And they stay in my brain. They stay fresh from what I'm trying to do and in the direction I'm trying to go in. And it gives me the confidence to think and act differently and behave like I'm already there. Right. That's why I talk to the guys on the football team I'm coaching. We talk about thinking and acting like a state champion. What does that feel like? How different would you show up every day if you were state champion compared to a 3-17? It's the same with one of my clients I talked to yesterday. How different would your life be if you showed up like $100 million producer every day instead of showing up like you do right now? What looks different? How does a $100 million producer show up? Then we have to change and start showing up like a $100 million producer, because there's tons of $100 million producers out there in this market that will always find a way to win. They just show up differently than you do. That's what they do.
And you know what's crazy about that is it's not always the loan officers who are the smartest and have the best advice that are the top producers. And that's my uncommon belief around social media and mental health, since it is Mental Health Awareness Day, is I think where we get into trouble is when we passively scroll on social. But if you flip that script and instead of making it just about a broadcast and make it about belonging, because I feel like when you start your morning and after you've journaled and you've done your cold plunge, whatever your typical routine is, imagine if instead of just passively scrolling, you proactively saw the good in other people, or you shared something educational where you know what you're doing is work that matters and it's valuable and it's helpful. It's not a broadcast. To me, that's where the proactive pro-social use is good for mental health, because we can connect in more meaningful ways. It's those who use it as an escape and you're just being shown what the algorithm wants to feed you, which can be dangerous. If you're like, I had a teenager going through a breakup, and so she was constantly looking at all this breakup stuff. And I'm like, well, gosh, your feed is just going to like continuously feed you that. So you're only focusing on the problem. Well, guess what? The problem gets bigger. But if you teach algorithms to feed you what you're learning and growing and excited about and what the next chapter is, and you're seeing good in other people, you can be that chain reaction for others. So focus on belonging over broadcasting.
I love that.
So I'm going to close out with a story and then be ready, Deborah, to close it out. So guys, I'm wearing a bracelet right now. It says WGT, PVC, WTD, and WN with a question mark.
Chris Devin, right there.
What's that?
Right? Chris Devin, right?
Chris Devin. Yeah, and I will be interviewing Chris Devin next month. I've interviewed Chris Devin multiple times. He, has overcome real adversity. I mean, had a major stuttering problem as a child and has become a $100 million producer. He's a dad of 3 and he's currently fighting cancer and going on another bout of that. And so here's why I'm closing out with this is what these acronyms. I just took a picture of the note that he sent me this week because we were talking a couple days ago and we were prepping for the call that we're going to do. And I'm like, hey, can we go public? Can I start telling him? He's like, yeah, I want my adversity story to help inspire other people. I can't remember if he said 200 million. There's some big number he's going for next year. So guys, he's literally going through cancer treatment as we speak, fighting for his life. And these are his four words: WGT, we got this. WN with a question mark. Why not me? Why not us? He's talking about his family here. WTD, win the day. That's what Chris just talked about. Like if you're going through adversity, what is winning the day? Win the day. And PVC, positive voice choice from Jonathan. Coach Jonathan Roach is his coach. So, guys, there's like this whole call has been a formula for how to be unbeatable, how to be unbreakable. And by the way, if you do know Chris Devins, send him a text and just use one of these acronyms. We got this. Win the day. You can do this. Send him a positive, positive note. He needs all the prayers and positive momentum that he can get. Before we hand it off to Deb to close out the call, anything you want to say, Chris? Any closing thoughts from you, brother?
Always an honor and a privilege to be on here. It always is. And I appreciate both of you. I appreciate the audience for giving me a platform. If you're going to be at NAM this weekend or a week from Saturday at Caesar's Palace, I will be competing in the Battle of the Coaches Challenge.
Dope.
Amir Saeed is the winner last year, so I'm going to go take the belt from Amir Saeed. That's the plan. But yeah, so if you're going to be there, would love to see you at Caesar's Palace. Come by and say hi.
Love that. And before I hand it off to Deb, first of all, by the way, Chris, if people want to hire you as a speaker, they want to get your book, where do they go? How do they get more on you?
ChrisWelton.live. ChrisWelton.live would be the best place to connect with me. Yeah, you can go
Follow
through
this
there,
guy.
it's got everything there. And you can follow me on Instagram at one hand at a time.
Love that. So follow him, guys, one hand at a time. His name, .live, not .com. If you're going to Sales Mastery, Deb and I will both be there. I would love for you to come up and say, what's up? You know, give me a little fist bump. So if you're going to Sales Mastery, let me know. For those of you that are part of the First Home IQ community, we're going to be having a little champagne toast. So if you are First Home IQ ambassador, make sure you tell Kristen that you're there so she can make sure that you get notified when we decide where and when we're going to meet up and do a little community within the community. Deborah Bird, close it out, win by noon style. And oh, by the way, make sure everybody knows how to sign up for that training that you and Todd are doing virtually around exactly what to say. So let's go.
So that is the first week of December. So the week right after Thanksgiving, we thought what a perfect gift you can give yourself for Christmas, which would be the gift of going through a personal certification with Todd and I that is focused on the mortgage and real estate space. So make sure you sign up for that. I'll put it in the chat as well as in the show notes. And then guys, also don't forget to get your Win by Noon planner, because part of winning by noon means you have to have a plan. And if you heard the consistency around Dave and Chris both sharing how they journaled and how they write things down, I know that is very old school for some, but there's power in writing your thoughts down and then creating a plan around it. So your action item is, what are the internal thoughts or beliefs that you say to yourself on a daily basis, and get good at starting to write those down. And then what I want you to do is put a line and draw an arrow. And how do you reframe those thoughts and beliefs in a positive way that supports your future in your life? Because if we're living an unstoppable life, what is that vision? And it starts with the relationship that you have with you. Do you like yourself? How is your mental health? We have to start there because we can't pour from an empty cup. And so in order to grow that personal capacity, so you can go to events like this and we can pour into you. If your capacity is a shot glass, it just overflows. You can't possibly capture all the goodness. So create little micro intentional adversities and then check them off. Maybe it's making your bed every day before noon. Maybe it's calling 5 people in your database. Maybe it's DMing 5 people a day and catching them do good. But whatever it is, make those micro commitments, put it in your planner, check them off. And that behavior of self-righteousness, not from like a religious standpoint, but just honoring your words, is going to grow your self-trust, your self-love, your self-respect. And over time, you'll notice you walk a little taller. Maybe you lose 38 pounds like Dave did last year, and you start to feel better about you. And when you feel better about you, now you can give your best to the world, which is to me what our ultimate responsibility is. And that is not defined by your production numbers. Okay. If you're a top producer, that does not define your worth. So I'll end with the fact that for those of you listening, turn it up. You are worthy. You are enough. Your mistakes or what happens to you doesn't define you, but it can be your defining moment if you choose to let it be adversity that comes through you to make it your strength. But you are worthy and you are enough. Life is short, it's precious. You're not guaranteed tomorrow. So live it on your terms and live big.
I have no words other than follow everybody here. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to Uncommon LO because we are obsessed with impact. We all love what we do, and have a great weekend. Go Broncos, and take care, everybody.
See you. Thank you.
Boom.